Doctor wiped sweat from his forehead as he stepped out of his small research station. The twin suns have burned overhead, making the rocky landscape shimmer with heat waves. He had been studying the strange plants that grew in the volcanic soil for 3 months now. It was quiet work, exactly what he wanted after years of dealing with university politics back on Earth. That quiet ended when he saw them coming. 12 massive shapes moved across the desert toward his station. At first, thought they might be some kind of flying vehicles. Then the sunlight caught their scales and he realized what he was looking at. Dragons. Real, living dragons, each one the size of a small spaceship. Grabbed his emergency communicator, but then he noticed something strange. The lead dragon carried a white cloth in its claws, a flag of peace. Had studied enough alien cultures to recognize the universal signal. These creatures wanted to talk, not fight. The dragons landed in a semicircle around his station. The ground shook under their weight. The largest dragon, covered in deep red scales that looked like polished metal, stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was deep and careful, like distant thunder. "Human," the dragon said, "I am the elder, we come seeking your help." Stared up at the creature. Was easily 40 feet long with eyes like golden coins. Scars covered his hide, telling stories of battles fought over centuries. The other dragons were smaller but no less impressive. Some were blue-black like storm clouds, others green like deep forest shadows. "My help," managed to say. "I'm just a plant biologist. I study flowers and roots." Lowered his great head closer to. "We know what you are, Doctor. We know your species. Humans think differently than other races in this galaxy. We need that different thinking now." Another dragon, this one silver-scaled and elegant, moved forward. "I am the wise. Our young are dying, human. For the first time in 3,000 years, our eggs will not hatch. Our newborns lose their fire and die within days. We call this curse the silence." Felt his scientific curiosity override his fear. "How long has this been happening?" 2 seasons, answered. "We have tried everything. Our eldest shamans have performed the ancient rituals. Our healers have mixed every potion known to. We have even asked the crystal beings of Vega Prime and the mind readers of the worlds for help. And nothing worked." Shook her head sadly. "Nothing. Every solution fails. Every wise answer leads nowhere. Our race faces extinction and we do not know why." Walked closer to the dragons, trying to process what he was hearing. "Why come to me? I'm just one human. There are billions of us and many are much smarter than I am." "Because," said a younger dragon with bronze scales, "your species has a reputation. You solve problems that should be impossible to solve. You make tools that should not work. You find answers where there should be no answers." Nodded. 3 cycles ago, humans helped the rockworms of Titan when their tunnels collapsed. The greatest engineers in the galaxy said the situation was hopeless, but humans fixed it with simple machines and stubborn thinking. 5 cycles ago, added, your people saved the floating cities of gas giant 7 when their gravity generators failed. The builders themselves said replacement was impossible. Humans made it possible. Remembered those stories. Both had made the news back home. In each case, human engineers had solved ancient problems with basic tools and practical thinking. No magic, no advanced alien technology, just human stubbornness and creativity. "We do not ask lightly," continued. "Dragons have never sought help from younger races, but our pride means nothing if our children cannot live." Looked at each dragon in turn. He could see the pain in their ancient eyes. These were not the savage monsters from old Earth stories. They were parents watching their children die, desperate enough to swallow their pride and ask a stranger for help. "I'll try," said, "but I need to see the problem for myself. Can you take me to your nesting grounds?" The dragons exchanged glances. "You would enter the sacred rookery?" asked the bronze dragon. "No outsider has ever seen our nesting place." "If you want my help, I need to understand what's happening. I can't fix something I can't examine. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Very well. But know this, human. If you betray our trust, if you bring harm to our young or reveal our secrets, dragons have long memories and longer lives for revenge. Understood, said. He meant it. When do we go? Now, said. Every day we wait, more eggs grow cold, more hope dies. Quickly gathered his portable equipment. He grabbed his atmospheric scanner, electromagnetic detector, soil analysis kit, and basic medical supplies. The dragons watched with curious expressions as he packed what looked like simple metal boxes and electronic gadgets. These devices will help you understand the silence, asked. Maybe, replied. They'll help me understand what's happening around your eggs. Sometimes the cause of a problem isn't what it appears to be. The largest dragon lowered himself so could climb onto his back. Hold tight, human. We fly fast and the rookery is far from here. As they lifted off into the burning sky, felt the wind rushing past him. Below, the landscape spread out like a map. The dragons flew in formation, their wings beating in rhythm. Had never imagined anything could be so beautiful and terrifying at the same time. During the flight told him more about the silence. It had started suddenly, with no warning. Healthy eggs simply stopped developing. Newborn dragons were born weak, unable to breathe fire, dying within hours. The greatest dragon minds had studied the problem and found no cause. We have ruled out disease, explained over the wind. We have checked for poisoning, for curses, for attacks by enemies. Nothing explains it. As they flew toward the mountains where the dragons nested, wondered what he had gotten himself into. He was just one human with basic scientific equipment, trying to solve a problem that had stumped an entire ancient civilization. But that was exactly why they had asked him for help. The dragon rookery was nothing like it expected. Instead of a simple cave, he found himself in a vast underground city carved from volcanic rock. Tunnels stretched in all directions, lit by pools of natural lava that cast everything in red and orange light. The walls were covered with dragon art that must have taken centuries to create. This is magnificent, breathed, looking around in wonder. It has been our home for 5,000 years, said with pride. Every dragon in this sector was born here. Every egg has been laid in these sacred chambers since before your species learned to make fire. Led them deeper into the complex. The nesting chamber is this way. Prepare yourself, human. What you will see is heartbreaking. They entered a circular room the size of a sports stadium. The floor was covered with soft sand that glowed faintly with heat. Dozens of dragon eggs sat in carefully arranged nests, each one tended by anxious dragon parents. The eggs should have been warm and moving with life inside. Instead, they looked cold and still. They were laid 4 months ago, explained a blue dragon named. By now, the young should be ready to hatch. Instead, they grow colder each day. Knelt beside one of the nests and pulled out his equipment. The dragon parents watched nervously as he pointed strange devices at their precious eggs. What is that human doing? Whispered one dragon to another. He's measuring things, replied. Let him work. Ran his electromagnetic scanner over the eggs, then checked the readings. The numbers made him frown. He pulled out his atmospheric analyzer and took air samples from different parts of the chamber. Those readings made him frown even more. Do you have historical records? Asked. Data about successful hatches from previous years. Looked confused. We have stories, memories passed down through generations, but we do not understand what you mean by data. Numbers, measurements, temperature readings, atmospheric conditions, anything that might have changed between then and now. The dragons exchanged glances. We remember that conditions felt the same, said. The chamber has always been warm. The air has always been pure. The magical energies have always been strong. Pulled out his soil analysis kit and began testing the sand around the eggs. Has anything new been built near this mountain? Any construction, mining, or industrial work in the last year? Why would that matter? Asked. The silence is clearly a magical problem. Perhaps we have angered the fire spirits or broken some ancient law. Maybe, said, continuing his tests, but I want to rule out physical causes first. The dragons watched in puzzlement as spent hours taking measurements throughout the chamber. He tested air quality, electromagnetic fields, soil composition, and radiation levels. His equipment beeped and hummed constantly, producing streams of data that meant nothing to the dragons. This is very strange behavior, one dragon whispered to. Where are his ritual tools? Why does he not call upon the spirits for guidance? Humans work differently, replied, though he sounded uncertain. We must trust their methods. By evening had collected enough data to see a pattern. The electromagnetic readings were all wrong. There were artificial energy signatures throughout the chamber, frequencies that did not occur in nature. When he traced the source, the readings pointed toward the eastern mountain range. I need to see what's on the other side of those mountains, told. That is forbidden territory, the dragon replied. No one goes there. Why not? Because the other humans told us not to. Felt a cold feeling in his stomach. What other humans? Answered reluctantly. A mining company. They came here 2 seasons ago, just before the silence began. They said they needed to extract exotic matter from the mountains for their star drives. They promised not to disturb us if we did not disturb them. And you agreed. It seemed wise, said defensively. Humans have powerful weapons and many ships. We thought it better to avoid conflict. Sat down heavily on a rock. 2 seasons ago, just when the dragon eggs started failing. The timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. I need to see that mining operation, he said. That could start a war, protested. The humans said the area was dangerous, that their work could not be interrupted. If I'm right about what's causing this, you're already at war. You just don't know it yet. That night convinced 3 of the younger dragons to fly him over the Forbidden Mountains. They had to stay high to avoid the mining company's sensors, but could see enough to confirm his fears. The human mining operation was massive. Huge machines dug deep into the mountains, extracting rare minerals needed for faster-than-light travel. The operation used quantum resonance drilling, a technique that sent powerful electromagnetic pulses deep into the rock. Checked his readings and felt sick. The quantum frequencies from the mining were broadcasting directly through the mountain into the dragon rookery. The electromagnetic fields were interfering with the dragon's natural bioelectric systems, disrupting the delicate processes needed for their eggs to develop. It's not magic, he told the dragons when they returned. It's physics. Dragon reproduction depends on bioelectrical fields that control cell development in your eggs. The human mining operation is broadcasting electromagnetic interference that disrupts those fields. The dragon stared at him in confusion. In simple terms, continued, the machines are sending out invisible energy that confuses your eggs. The eggs can't develop properly because the signals they need are being scrambled. That's impossible, said. We have nested here for thousands of years. No mere industrial work could affect our ancient life force. Industrial work can affect anything, replied. Energy is energy, whether it comes from magic or machines. Your eggs need specific electromagnetic frequencies to develop. The mining equipment is broadcasting on the same frequencies, creating interference. Shook his great head. You are saying that human machines built for digging rocks are killing our children. Yes, and the humans probably don't even know they're doing it. They're focused on their mining, not on how it affects dragon biology. Then we destroy the mines, snarled. We burn their machines and drive them away. That would start an interstellar war, warned. The Terran Federation would send warships to protect their mining rights. Besides, Destroying the equipment won't necessarily fix the damage that's already been done. Then what do you propose? Asked. Was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. An idea was forming in his mind, but it was crazy enough that he almost didn't want to say it out loud. I think I can build something, he said finally. Not to stop the mining, but to protect your nesting chamber from the interference. A technological shield that filters out the harmful frequencies while preserving the natural bioelectric fields your eggs need. The dragons looked skeptical. You would use human machines to fight other human machines? Asked. Something like that, but I'll need materials. Specific metals and crystals that can handle electromagnetic frequencies. Components that can generate precise countersignals. What kind of materials? Asked. Took a deep breath. He was about to ask for something that no dragon had ever been asked to give up. I need things from your hordes. The silence in the nesting chamber was deeper than any had heard before. 12 ancient dragons stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to outrage. He had just asked them to give up pieces of their hordes, the most sacred possessions any dragon could own. You want our treasure, said slowly, as if he couldn't believe the words. Specific pieces, clarified quickly. I need metals that conduct electromagnetic energy in precise ways. Platinum, gold, silver, some rare earth elements. I also need crystals that can focus and redirect energy frequencies. Impossible, hissed a new voice from the tunnel entrance. A massive dragon with black scales edged in gold entered the chamber. This was the Proud, one of the most respected dragons in their society. No dragon gives up hoard treasure to outsiders. It is unthinkable. Was smaller than but moved with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. His golden eyes swept over with obvious disgust. So this is the human who claims he can solve the silence with metal trinkets, continued. I have heard the whispers throughout our tunnels, dragons actually believing that our ancient curse can be cured with human gadgets. Warned, this human is our guest. He has agreed to help us. Help us? Laughed, a sound like breaking stone. He insults us. He claims our sacred nesting grounds are contaminated by distant machines. He says our life force can be disrupted by mining equipment. Now he wants to rob our hordes to build some technological nonsense. Other dragons began to murmur agreement. Could see doubt spreading through the group like poison. The silence is a spiritual problem, declared. It requires spiritual solutions. Prayer, ritual, proper respect for the ancient ways, not human machines built from stolen treasure. The electromagnetic readings don't lie, said firmly. The interference patterns are clear. Your eggs are failing because their bioelectric fields are being disrupted. Bioelectric fields, repeated mockingly. Listen to him speak in his alien tongue of wires and circuits. Dragons are not machines, human. We are beings of fire and magic, older than your entire species. Magic and physics follow the same rules, replied. Energy is energy, no matter what you call it. This statement caused an uproar. Several dragons roared in anger. The idea that their ancient magic was just another form of physics was deeply offensive to many of them. Tried to restore calm. Perhaps we should consider both approaches, traditional healing and this new possibility. There is no new possibility, snapped. This human offers false hope while demanding our most precious possessions. Can you not see the trap? He seeks to rob us while our grief makes us desperate. Felt the situation slipping away from him. He needed to prove his theory, but without the materials from their hordes, he could only build a weak demonstration device. Give me 3 days, he said. Let me build a small version of what I'm proposing, using materials I brought with me. If it shows any positive results, then we can discuss using better components. Looked around at the other dragons. Some nodded reluctantly. Others, led by, remained hostile. 3 days, agreed. But you will work under supervision. If this fails, you will leave our territory and never return. For the next 2 days, worked without sleep. He built a crude electromagnetic field generator using parts from his research equipment and spare components from his ship. The device was barely functional, held together with improvised connections and powered by a small fusion cell. The dragons watched his work with mixed feelings. Some, seemed genuinely curious about his strange methods. Others, following's lead, treated the whole effort as an elaborate joke. "Look at him," said to a group of younger dragons, "playing with his toys while our children die. This is what comes of seeking help from inferior species." "He is trying," protested. "At least he offers action instead of empty words." "Action?" snorted. "He waves metal sticks around and claims to understand mysteries that have puzzled our elders. It is arrogance beyond measure." On the 3rd day, was ready to test his improvised device. Word had spread throughout the dragon community, and dozens of dragons gathered to watch. Some came hopping for success, others expecting failure that would prove human technology was worthless. Positioned his device near one of the failing egg nests. The generator hummed to life, creating a small electromagnetic field around the eggs. His readings showed that the device was working, but barely. The field was too weak and unstable to make much difference. "Well," demanded after an hour had passed, "where is your miracle cure?" Checked his instruments. The eggs showed slight improvement in their bioelectric activity, but nothing dramatic enough to convince skeptical dragons. "The effect is too small," admitted. "This device doesn't have enough power or precision. I need better materials to create a stronger, more stable field." "Ah," said with satisfaction. "So now we hear the truth. The human's magic fails and he blames his tools. How convenient." "It's not about blame," protested. "It's about having the right equipment for the job. A surgeon can't operate with a kitchen knife." "More excuses," declared to the watching crowd. "This proves what I have said all along. Humans cannot solve dragon problems with human methods. We waste time on false hopes while the real solution waits to be discovered through proper spiritual inquiry." Many dragons nodded in agreement, could see his credibility crumbling. Then something unexpected happened. One of the eggs near his device moved slightly. "Did you see that?" asked excitedly. Everyone gathered around the nest. The egg moved again, just a tiny shift, but the first sign of life any dragon egg had shown in months. "It could be coincidence," said quickly, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Checked his readings again. The bioelectric activity in that particular egg had increased by 30%. It wasn't much, but it was real improvement. "The device is working," said. "It's just not strong enough to fix all the damage. But with proper materials, with the right crystals and conductors, I could build something powerful enough to restore normal electromagnetic conditions throughout the entire nesting chamber." The dragons stared at the slightly moving egg with wonder. After months of watching their children die, any sign of hope was precious. "One egg moves and you call it success," challenged. "This proves nothing." But could see doubt in the proud dragon's eyes now. The egg moved again, more strongly this time. "It proves the concept works," said. "Give me what I need and I can save them all." Looked around at his fellow dragons. The debate that followed was fierce and loud, with dragons arguing in their ancient language. Led those who opposed giving any treasure to the human. But others, seeing hope in that one moving egg, began to support's plan. Finally, after hours of argument, made his decision. "You will have what you need," he told. "But understand this, human. If you fail after taking our treasure, if you betray our trust or bring harm to our young, there will be nowhere in this galaxy where you can hide from dragon vengeance." Nodded solemnly. "I understand, I won't let you down." Hissed in anger but said nothing more. The decision had been made. Would get his materials, and with them, the chance to prove that human ingenuity could solve even the most ancient mysteries. As the dragons dispersed to gather the required treasures, watched the single egg that had responded to his device. It moved again, stronger than before. Inside that egg, a dragon child was fighting to live. Had 3 days to save them all. Had never seen anything like the dragon hordes. Each dragon led him to their personal treasure chamber, vast caves filled with thousands of years of collected wealth. Mountains of gold coins caught the lava light. Precious gems sparkled like captured stars. Ancient artifacts from a dozen dead civilizations lay stacked in careful arrangements. But wasn't interested in the obvious treasures. He walked through each hoard with his electromagnetic scanner, looking for specific materials with the properties he needed. This, he said, pointing to a silver crystal the size of his fist, and this platinum rod, that gold wire over there. Watched nervously as selected items from his personal collection. Those pieces are over 2,000 years old. The crystal came from the first world I ever visited as a young dragon. I understand what these mean to you, said gently. I'll return them when this is over if possible, but right now these materials are the key to saving your children. Each dragon contributed something different. Provided rare earth crystals that could focus energy with perfect precision, gave up conductors made from metals that didn't exist on Earth. Even, after much bitter argument, reluctantly donated a set of energy-focusing gems. Use them well, human, said with cold anger. When this fails, I will personally see that you pay for every piece of treasure wasted on your foolish scheme. With the proper materials, began building something far more complex than his first device. This wasn't just an electromagnetic field generator. It was a bioharmonic resonance system that would work with dragon physiology rather than simply blocking interference. The dragons watched in fascination as assembled components they couldn't understand. He used their crystals to create frequency modulators. Their precious metals became conductors that could carry specific types of energy. Ancient gems became focusing elements for electromagnetic fields. How does he know which pieces to use where? Asked. I do not know, the elder dragon admitted. Human minds work in ways that are foreign to us. Worked for days, barely stopping to eat or sleep. His device grew from a simple field generator into something that looked almost artistic. The dragon crystals formed geometric patterns that caught and redirected energy. Precious metal wires connected everything in flowing, organic curves. The whole system hummed with power that seemed both technological and magical. It's not just about blocking the interference, explained as he made final adjustments. That was my first mistake. Instead, I'm creating a new electromagnetic environment that enhances your natural bioelectric fields. The mining operation sends out random, chaotic signals. This system will overlay organized, harmonious frequencies that amplify what dragon eggs need to develop properly. You are turning our treasure into some kind of machine, asked a blue dragon named. Not a machine, corrected. A biological interface. This system will actually integrate with your life energy. Dragons will become part of the circuit, your natural electromagnetic field strengthening the overall effect. Laughed harshly. Now he claims we will become part of his contraption. Each explanation grows more ridiculous than the last. But other dragons were beginning to understand. You mean we would not just use this device, said slowly. We would become part of how it works. Exactly. Dragon is incredibly powerful, much stronger than any species I've studied. This system will harness that power and use it to create a stable, beneficial electromagnetic environment throughout your nesting grounds. On the 7th day, was ready to activate the complete system. Dragons gathered from across the mountain complex to witness the test. The nesting chamber was packed with hundreds of dragons, all watching anxiously as made final preparations. The device now filled an entire section of the chamber. Crystal nodes were positioned at specific points around the room, connected by networks of precious metal conductors. At the center sat the main control unit, built from components that represented the combined wealth of a dozen ancient dragons. "If this works," said Tu, "the effects should be immediate and dramatic. If it fails, then we will know that dragon problems cannot be solved with human solutions." Finished. Activated the system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystals began to glow with soft, warm light. The metal conductors started to hum with flowing energy. Throughout the chamber, instruments showed electromagnetic fields shifting and stabilizing into new patterns. The first sign of success came from the dragons themselves, gasped as he felt a surge of energy flow through his body. "Something is happening," he said in amazement. "I can feel it, like lightning in my bones, but warm and pleasant." Other dragons began to experience the same sensation. Their natural bioelectric fields were being amplified and harmonized by the system, creating feedback loops that strengthened the overall effect. Then the real miracle began. Every egg in the chamber started to move, not just the one that had shown signs of life before, but all of them. Shells that had been cold and still for months suddenly pulsed with renewed energy. Inside each egg, dragon young that had been dying began to grow and develop at visible speeds. "Impossible," whispered, staring at his own egg which had shown no life for weeks. Now it rocked back and forth with the movements of a healthy inside. "It's working," said in wonder. "They're all alive, they're all growing." But the system did more than just heal the eggs. Adult dragons throughout the chamber found their own abilities enhanced, breathed a stream of fire that burned twice as hot as normal, felt his magical senses expand, allowing him to perceive energy patterns he had never noticed before. "What have you done to us?" demanded, but his voice carried wonder instead of anger. His own flame, when he tested it, blazed with power he hadn't felt since his youth. "I created a symbiotic relationship," explained, checking his readings with satisfaction. "The system doesn't just protect you from the mining interference. It actively enhances your natural abilities by providing optimal electromagnetic conditions for dragon physiology to function." The first egg hatched that evening. A tiny emerged, healthy and strong, breathing small puffs of flame from the moment it broke free of its shell. Then another hatched, and another. By midnight, dozens of young dragons filled the chamber with their cries and tiny roars. Dragon parents who had given up hope wept tears of joy as they held their newborn children. The silence was broken. Their race would survive. Approached with an expression the human couldn't read. For a moment, thought the proud dragon might attack him. Instead, lowered his great head in a gesture of respect. "I was wrong about you, human," said quietly. "You have given us more than survival. You have given us evolution." "Evolution?" asked. Answered, "We are stronger now than we have been in centuries. Our fire burns hotter, our magic reaches farther, our young develop faster and healthier. You have not just solved our problem. You have improved our entire species." Nodded slowly. That had been part of his plan from the beginning, though he hadn't wanted to promise more than he could deliver. By working with dragon biology instead of against it, by enhancing rather than just protecting, he had created something unprecedented. "There's one more thing you need to know," said carefully. "This system requires maintenance and calibration. The crystals need to be adjusted periodically. The metal conductors will need replacement eventually. The control systems will need updates as conditions change." The dragons looked at each other with new understanding. "You have made us dependent on human technology," said. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. "I've made us partners," corrected. "You have something we need. Now we have something you need. Neither species has to be dependent on the other, but both benefit from cooperation." As dragon young continued to hatch throughout the night, filling the ancient chamber with new life, realized he had accomplished something remarkable. He hadn't just solved an impossible problem. He had created the foundation for an alliance that could change the galaxy. 3 weeks after the first dragons hatched, news of the miracle spread throughout the galaxy. Representatives from a dozen different species arrived all wanting to understand how a single human had accomplished what their greatest minds could not. Found himself giving the same explanation over and over to various alien diplomats, scientists, and officials. Each group left shaking their heads in amazement at the human approach to problem solving. "Remarkable," said Ambassador On of the Crystal Collective, examining the bioharmonic resonance system. "We spent months studying the dragon situation through quantum consciousness theory and metaphysical energy analysis. You simply treated it as an engineering problem." "Because it was an engineering problem," replied. "Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one." But not everyone was pleased with the human success. The mining company executives were furious when they learned their operation had been blamed for the dragon crisis. They demanded meetings with threatening legal action and trade sanctions. "You cannot hold us responsible for unintended consequences," declared Director Harrison of Terran Mining Consortium during a heated video conference. "Our operation is completely legal and approved by the colonial administration. If dragons chose to nest near industrial zones, that's their problem." Listen to the human executive with cold patience. When Harrison finished his threats, the ancient dragon smiled, showing teeth the size of swords. "Director Harrison," said calmly, "you seem to misunderstand the situation. We are not seeking compensation for past damages. We are informing you that your mining operation will cease immediately." "You can't force us to stop legal mining activities," Harrison sputtered. "Actually, we can," interjected, entering the communication chamber with several other large dragons. "The Terran Federation's own colonial laws state that industrial operations must not interfere with the reproductive cycles of sapient species. Doctor has provided clear evidence that your mining directly caused our reproductive failure. That makes your entire operation illegal under Federation law." Harrison's face went pale. "You can't prove direct causation in a court." "We don't need to," said with satisfaction. "Dragons are now protected under the Sapient Species Protection Act. Any industrial operation that harms our ability to reproduce can be shut down immediately, pending investigation. The investigation could take years." Watched the exchange with interest. The dragons had learned human legal principles remarkably quickly. "However," continued, "we are reasonable beings. We propose a compromise." "What kind of compromise?" Harrison asked suspiciously. "Move your operation 50 kilometers east. Doctor's calculations show that distance would eliminate harmful interference with our nesting grounds. In exchange, we will provide security for your facilities and worker protection services." Harrison considered this. Dragon protection would be worth billions in reduced insurance costs and security expenses. "And if we refuse?" "Then you explain to your shareholders why you're abandoning a trillion-credit exotic matter deposit, because you insisted on digging in the wrong place," said sweetly. After Harrison signed the relocation agreement and ended the call, turned to with a suspicious look. "You had this planned from the beginning, didn't you?" The ancient dragon's expression was unreadable. "I'm not sure what you mean." "The legal research, the knowledge of Federation law, the prepared compromise offer. You've been studying human politics and business practices." "Perhaps," admitted, "is that a problem?" Was quiet for a moment. Then he started laughing. "You magnificent, sneaky lizard. You didn't just want me to solve your reproduction problem. You wanted to see how humans approach complex challenges." And prompted. "And you figured out that the best way to deal with humans is to think like humans. Legal pressure, economic incentives, mutually beneficial agreements. You've learned to use our own methods against us." stepped forward with something that might have been a smile. "We learned from the best teacher, Dr. You." The pieces fell into place in his mind. This was never just about saving your eggs. You were preparing for a larger relationship with humanity. You studied our species, identified our strengths and weaknesses, then created a situation where we'd reveal our problem-solving methods. "Partially correct," said. "We truly were desperate to save our young. But yes, we also saw an opportunity to understand how humans think. Your species has a reputation for solving impossible problems, but no one understood how you do it. And now you do. Now we do. Humans don't rely on ancient wisdom or mystical knowledge. You treat every problem as a puzzle to be taken apart and rebuilt. You use whatever tools are available, regardless of whether they're supposed to work together. Most importantly, you don't let tradition or pride prevent you from trying new approaches." Sat down on a crystal formation, processing the implications. "So what happens now? You've learned human methods, you've secured your territory, and you've got enhanced reproductive capabilities. You don't need me anymore." The three dragons exchanged glances, then spoke carefully. "Doctor, do you believe we orchestrated this situation to manipulate you?" "Thought about it? Partially. You definitely guided events more than you admitted, but the core problem was real and you genuinely needed help." "And how do you feel about being guided?" "Honestly, impressed. It was brilliantly done. You identified what you needed, created optimal conditions to get it, and achieved multiple objectives simultaneously. That's exactly the kind of thinking humans respect." Leaned forward. "Then you are not angry about the manipulation?" "What manipulation?" Grinned. "I solved an impossible problem, saved an entire species, gained access to technology beyond human understanding, and helped establish diplomatic relations between dragons and the Federation. From my perspective, this was a huge success. Even though we essentially tricked you into giving us a strategic advantage over humanity." "Did you? Let's see. Dragons now have enhanced abilities, but they depend on technology they can't build or maintain without human help. The mining company has been forced into a partnership that benefits dragons but also protects human economic interests. Both species have learned valuable lessons about working together." Paused. "Sounds like a win-win situation to me." Spoke up. "You don't seem concerned that dragons now have leverage over human activities in this sector." "Should I be? Dragons are now invested in human success. If humanity fails, your enhancement system fails. If we thrive, you thrive. You've tied our fates together in a way that makes conflict counterproductive for both sides." Nodded slowly. "You understand the deeper implications." "I understand that this was never about one human helping some dragons. This was about two species learning to think like each other. Dragons learned human practicality and flexibility. Humans learned dragon patience and long-term planning." "And what comes next?" asked. Stood up and looked around the chamber, where dozens of healthy dragon young played under the glow of the bioharmonic system. "Next, we do something that's never been done before. We create a true partnership between species. Dragons provide wisdom, longevity, and magical abilities that humans don't understand. Humans provide innovation, adaptability, and technological solutions that dragons never considered. The other galactic species will not be pleased," warned. "A dragon-human alliance would shift the balance of power dramatically." "Good," said. "The galaxy needs some balance shifting. Too many species have gotten comfortable with their ancient ways, their traditional solutions. Maybe it's time for some new thinking." Extended one massive claw toward. It was a gesture of equals, a handshake between partners. "Doctor," the ancient dragon said formally, "on behalf of all dragons in this sector, I invite humanity to join us in reshaping this galaxy." Reached out and grasped the dragon's claw. "On behalf of humanity, I accept, but I have one condition." "What condition?" Next time you need help with an impossible problem, just ask directly. No more elaborate schemes or manipulation. Partners should be honest with each other. Laughter rumbled through the chamber like distant thunder. Agreed. Though I suspect you will find that honesty between our species leads to even more impossible problems that need solving. Bring them on, replied. Humans love impossible problems, and now we have dragons to help us solve them. As the bioharmonic system hummed around them, enhancing dragon abilities while depending on human technology, realized he had witnessed something extraordinary. Not just first contact between species, but the birth of a new kind of civilization. One where ancient wisdom and modern innovation worked together, where magic and technology enhanced each other instead of competing. The impossible had become inevitable, and that was the most human thing of all.